In a unanimous opinion, the California Supreme Court reversed the death sentence against Scott Peterson, saying the trial court made a series of clear and significant errors in jury selection. At issue is the fact that several potential jurors were dismissed solely because they wrote on questionnaires that they were against the death penalty, even though the jurors gave no indication that their views would prevent them from following the law. The court, however, rejected Peterson's claim that he did not receive a fair trial and affirmed his convictions for murder. Scott Peterson was found guilty of murdering his pregnant wife, Laci, and their unborn son, Connor, in 2003. The case received unprecedented media attention, which Peterson's appellate attorney, Cliff Garner, argued should have resulted in a second change of venue.
Of the nearly 50% that had reached a decision, 98.5% thought he was guilty, and 6 jurors thought he was innocent, out of the 1,000 that had completed questionnaires at the time the change of venue motion was raised.
The Supreme Court rejected that argument, saying the publicity the Peterson trial generated, like the trials of O.J. Simpson and the Manson family and any other number of so-called trials of the century before them, was intrinsic to the case, not the place. Therefore, the court found that moving the trial to another location a second time would not have solved the problem of excessive publicity. Peterson's other arguments, that jurors should not have been able to stand in his boat during jury deliberations and that cadaver dog evidence was flawed, were also rejected by the court. It's now up to local prosecutors as to whether or not they will retry the penalty phase. California has not carried out a death sentence since 2006 and currently has a moratorium on executions.
So no death sentence for Scott Peterson, but he's still fighting for a new trial on the guilt phase. And you know, there's a couple issues. One is with one of the jurors, whether or not she was not 100% honest during the jury selection voir dire process. And then there's another issue out there for the defense, and his family's been talking about this a lot, is the fact that someone else did it. And there's new evidence. Take a listen to Janie Peterson.
Scott's habeas petition outlined evidence that wasn't heard in court. It outlined that Laci was alive and walking the dog the morning that she went missing. This took place after Scott left for the day. If Laci's walking the dog, Scott is innocent. It outlined information from the mailman that corroborates that Laci was walking the dog. It further goes on to talk about the evidence that's been collected that Laci confronted or encountered the burglars across the street. There was a burglary that occurred across the street the day that Laci went missing. And, you know, we've been investigating this entire time. So we have 5 more years of information. So we're looking forward to our day in court so the public can hear that Scott is innocent. And we need justice for Laci and Connor and Scott.
All right, let's bring back in the think tank. Scott Peterson had a bunch of days in court. As a matter of fact, during those days, my hair was a little bit darker. I wasn't dyeing it silver at that moment. Kirk Nurmi, how many bites at the apple? I mean, and this whole burglary theory, if we want to pick that apart, we can. But what's justice here? What is justice? Is justice a new trial for Scott Peterson?
Well, justice is allowing his claims to be heard in a habeas petition. And if there is new evidence, and Vinny, I think you'd have to concede back in those days before you were dyeing your hair gray and you were following this trial, that we had the evidence against Scott was circumstantial. There was no smoking gun, right? And there's some issues, I think, with his representation as well and some of the things they did. So the point is, justice in this case means allowing him to litigate these claims, this new evidence on a federal level, and pursue him to every extent of the law. Because again, we don't want someone to be innocent to be placed behind bars.
Yeah, innocent, but we're talking about Scott Peterson.
Well, now, I'm
Nima.
not saying he's innocent. I'm not saying he's innocent, Vinny.
Right.
But I think he gets the right to litigate all these things and put it before a court so he can make claims to that effect.
Yeah, the thing is, Nima, I heard about the burglars back in the day, and they chose not to go that route because they knew it was ridiculous. Because the story would be the burglars confronted Laci and said, "Oh my goodness, she's going to be able to identify her. So let's abduct her. Should we kill her now or should we wait later? And where should we place the body? Oh, let's put the body where Scott went fishing that day. I mean, are the burglars going to frame the manure salesman?
Yeah, there's a reason why, Mark Garagos and the defense team, and yeah, I know a lot of those folks. Laura regularly comes on your show. It's just not a good argument, and that's why they chose not to present it. Now, I'm sure they have some, they want to get a second or third or fourth bite at the apple, but Scott Peterson is not actually innocent. So they can make whatever arguments they want on appeal. The venue issue is litigated in every criminal case. We saw it in Chauvin over and over again, but that's gone out to the Supreme Court in Skilling, and everyone knows the venue was appropriate here. With respect to the juror issue, again, we're seeing it in Chauvin. The juror interprets a question one way, the defense thinks it should be answered a different way. It's not grounds to overturn a murder conviction, period. Scott Peterson is not actually innocent. This is not like the case that we're going to talk about next, where someone was wrongfully convicted. He's just going to litigate this issue, and his family is going to continue to argue this issue in the media. But this is someone who's guilty and who should remain in bars for the rest of his life.
And Eklund, I don't fault his family. I just don't. They're put in a tough spot. They always are put in a tough spot. But I look at it this way. I mean, Scott Peterson was able to pull one over on Laci. I mean, Laci's carrying their child, Connor, and she had no idea what this guy was up to and what he was capable of. So I can understand how he could fool the rest of his family as well.
Yeah, and I think like when you're in murder trials like this, if you're defense, your main focus is forcing the prosecution to prove their case. All right. And if you can't do that, then you're going to have to solve the case yourself. And that has to happen in the beginning. We can't wait after the fact. So if you have not found a smoking gun in 5 years, it's really hard for you to find one. Like, we need video, we need audio, we need DNA. But if we don't have that, I think that the cases of this getting retried is 0 to nil.
All right, when we come back, someone who was actually wrongfully convicted. Okay? Oh, by the way, there's a date for Scott Peterson. Forgot to put that up on the screen. August 25th. August 25th status hearing to find out a lot more about what may or may not happen with this new trial. But as I was saying, when we come back,